Welcome. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. It is brought to you by the kindly sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, seeing is believing. Waylead Properties, home is where one starts. DBS Industries, we truly are your roof experts. CBG, we stand with you. Fabrimental, your partner in steel. Duroplus, where Duroplus goes, water flows. The Bar Stowe School, start here, go everywhere. And my outfit is by Habil's Couture. They are at Adringano Gate, East Legon, and you can call them on 0284 1988, 0284 1988. That is Habil's Couture. Now, let me go on the phones and begin the show with the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapor. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Samson, for having me, and a very good morning to your cherished listeners. Thank you.
Great. We thank you because we know that it's been a difficult day for you yesterday. You, together with the Vice President, the Inspector General of Police, and a team were on the field looking at what was going on and assessing the needs of the people. And we understand that you worked all day into the night. So thank you very much for making time to join us. Briefly, what would you say about what you saw on the grounds, and what should we look forward to?
Well, what we saw on the grounds, catastrophic, very devastating. Community literally wiped off completely. The Vice President led a government delegation comprising myself, the Minister for Interior, the Minister for Information, and as you rightly pointed out, heads of security agencies. Went there to ascertain for himself what had taken place, commensurate with the victims, and send the condolences of government to the deceased family, and give a firm, strong assurance that government will do all in its power to ensure that we bring the situation to normalcy and support the community in rebuilding their community. So that's what happened yesterday. As you know, we've since been back. What are the next steps? The investigation has to go on and be done thoroughly and comprehensively with integrity. When we get the initial reports from the initial preliminary investigation, I believe the next course of action will be determined.
Right. Meanwhile, in the meantime, you have course to be interdicted. The chief inspector, who is in charge, according to the statement you issued, of inspecting and making sure that things are done rightly, and then also the company that was doing this carriage, the Maxam company, has also been suspended. Is that not too early?
Well, first of all, you have to take a look at the law clearly. LI 2177. And again, something you have to also take a look at the history, and by that I mean even pre-independence history of who the Chief Inspector of Mines is. And if you go to Regulation 2 of LI 2177, the regulation says that the Chief Inspector of Mines is responsible, is the Chief Inspector actually. That's the language of the law. The Chief Inspector of Mines is the Chief Inspector of Explosives and is responsible for the supervision of the manufacture, storage, transportation, and use of explosives for mining and mine support service. So in a matter like this, the Chief Inspector, the centrality of the Chief Inspector of Mines, pursuant to the regulation, cannot be ignored. But let me very quickly point out that this directive of mine by no means suggests that the Chief Inspector of Mines is guilty of any wrongdoing or is culpable or was derelict or any of that. That's not the conclusion that should be drawn from this instruction that has been given. But I think it's just proper for the integrity of the investigation and for the internal investigations of the Minerals Commission and the several other investigations which are ongoing. The Chief Inspector of Mines steps aside in order for these investigations to be one which will be credible in my view. Because if you look at the nature of the law, the man who is, if you want, directly responsible for the manufacture, in the language of the law, manufacture, storage, transportation, and use of explosives. If he's opposed, I don't know how credible the investigations will be. So it's just the right thing to do. And then you have this company which is also at the center of this situation. You don't preclude the company from continuing with its business of manufacturing and transporting of explosives. We have not had the opportunity to interrogate their protocols yet and to conclude the investigation. Touch wood, God forbid, if tomorrow we wake up and we are told that a transportation of explosives by this same company in another part of our country has resulted in a similar tragic event, what will that tell of the managers of our country? I think that will tell a very bad story of us, and it will smack of bad judgment. And so I think that in the interim, while the investigations are ongoing, I think it's also proper that this company is precluded from continuing with the business which has resulted in this tragic occurrence. So these are the two fundamental reasons which precipitated this action.
Right.
Of course, eventually, the larger inquiry will have to happen. And when I say the larger inquiry, I mean the general use of explosives in our country, particularly the use of explosives for mining, and that will be my responsibility. That has been examined. For example, the question whether or not explosives should not be manufactured at the mine site, and what distances should we have in terms of the transportation of explosives? Should we have, say, the manufacturers situated close range or just within the vicinity of the mining of place? We'll examine all of those. But these are the two initial steps that we think is important that we take.
Right. I'm coming to the point to know, because the rescue efforts, most important for now, where you have kept your the center of your attention, and the rehabilitation or relocation efforts, that is very central for now, because people are devastated. 13 people dead, 4 in critical condition who were initially misreported to be dead, and so the number was said to be 17. The many others who are still in hospital, and those who are displaced, who are trying to taking shelter, more particularly at we heard is it St. Michael Catholic Church place. But before that, if Maxam is suspended, how about Chirano? Because as we understand, they were the recipients. They were the, eventual recipients of the explosives that were being transported.
Yes, Samson, you're right. The matters to do with the relief efforts, which is being led by NADMO, the police, the fire service, and other state agencies, extremely important. And yesterday, the Vice President did a nice way when he said that all efforts should be made to bring some comfort and relief to the victims. So that's very important. What about Chirano? What I can say about that is that these are the two steps that I believe, working in close collaboration with other organs of the government, that are necessary for now. As you rightly pointed out, it's early days yet. I don't think that matter will end here. I believe it will go on and on and on. And as a lawyer, you can even imagine that there are all kinds of possible or potential implications. Some of them may be civil and so on and so forth. We don't have to preempt anything now. On Monday, we're scheduled to begin a series of engagements from the very morning, including a meeting with officials of Chirano and so on and so forth. And I believe that in due course, we will be able to come to a well-reasoned conclusion as
All right.
to what are the next steps that we should take. Yes.
Do you have an idea as to timelines for the investigations yet?
I think the initial or preliminary investigation shouldn't take too long. That's the sense I'm getting. That's the sense I'm getting. But
in the morning, you suggested that this would be a matter of days and not weeks.
It should be. But I wouldn't give a firm indication of timing because these are professionals doing their work. You don't want to stampede them. But I know that they are getting on with their job in earnest. I do know that, but I can't give specific timeline.
Right, and when this is done, we are certain that the public will have access to the report. It will be made public.
Well, let's wait for the report to be concluded. And I believe that the consequential steps or the consequential actions will then follow suit.
All right. So talk about the Vice President was talking about things that government intends to extend to them, including rebuilding of their community. What exactly are these plans? You don't think this community should be abandoned completely and then another place found for them? I don't know. I don't have an idea. Just asking. What are the things involved in this rebuilding exercise?
Yes, the Vice President said so, and it's very much in the right direction. He talks about collaborating between my ministry and the Minerals Commission as well, and then as well as the 3,000 companies to see how we will rebuild this community. The issue of whether or not to build the community where it is today or to move it to a different location. I think we will have to let the housing experts advise us and the safety experts advise us. But for myself personally, I don't see how they should be. I wouldn't understand why they should be moved. I'm not too sure that the accident was necessarily because of the location of the community. It could have happened to any community at all. But I believe that kind of decision will have to be made in consultation with the experts as well as the community members themselves. Right.
So as I indicated earlier, we understand you must be very fatigued. So we can leave it here. But if you have anything else to share with the public, you can say that briefly, and then we'll move on, sir.
Well, what I would say is that the methods which have come out of this incident are far-reaching, and one of the assurance I want to give is that the broader interrogation, which is inevitable, which is inescapable, will be done, which is the general, when these matters happen everywhere in the world, what you do also is that apart from dealing with a specific issue, you also look at the institutional framework and look at the regulatory framework in place, and then put in place measures which will forestall it in years to come. And as I pointed out, one of the suggestions which has been made to me, which sounds very attractive, is where these explosives are manufactured. First of all, are they imported? And if they are imported, should they be imported? Second of all, can they be manufactured in Ghana? Thirdly, where should they be manufactured? And so on and so forth. But that is a future larger conversation we will have. For the time being, what is important is to get on top of this particular situation. And God willing, we intend to do exactly that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapor, is the one we just spoke to. He, together with the Vice President and other security officers, the IGP and some officers from the Army, were at Apeatse in the BOGOSO area yesterday to see for themselves at first hand the destruction that had happened as a result of the explosion that occurred there. Now, as we understand, he issued a statement soon after they returned from the inspection of the place, and his statement said that the Chief Inspector of Mines, who is a Chief Inspector of Explosives and is responsible for the supervision of the manufacture, storage, transportation, and use of explosives for mining and mine support services, had to be interdicted by the CEO of the Minerals Commission. So he gave that directive to the CEO of the Minerals Commission to interdict the Chief Inspector of Mines with immediate effect pending the outcome of the ongoing investigations into the events there. He also directed the CEO of the Minerals Commission with immediate effect to suspend the registration of Maxam Company Limited with the Minerals Commission, thereby precluding the company from the manufacture, transportation, and or supply of explosives for mining operations pending the outcome of the investigations into the matter, and gave the assurance, which he has repeated a while ago, that all public officials or anyone found culpable will be made to face the full rigors of the law.